Will there be a winner today? We are pitting the two kings of Italy head to head to see which wine comes out on top. That's right, I have got a Brunello di Montalcino and a Barolo here, and we are going to taste both wines in this video. Hi there, I am Jacqueline for Vero, where we go around the world searching for wild and scarce wines and olive oils to bring to the US for wine lovers, businesses, and distributors alike. And while it's true, we love to go for those small and unique grapes that no one has ever heard of, sometimes we do want to go for those big wines and share those big boys with you. You know, the famous wines that we all know and love the world over. So today we are going to pit two of these bottles head to head. The kings of the Italian red wine world, Barolo versus Brunello. So let's take a look at each wine a little bit before we get into the fun part of the tasting, just so that we can learn a little bit of backstory and theory to see how that applies when we taste. So first, let's go over their similarities. Both wines come from Italy, both wines are red wines made from red grapes, and both wines will age for several years in oak barrels. Both wines became the Italian DOCG classification, or denominazione di origine controllata e garantita, the pinnacle of the Italian wine law pyramid, in the year of 1980. And, well, of course, both wines start with the letter B. But at that high level, the similarities stop there. So where can the differences come into the equation now? To not show preferential treatment, I'm going to go in alphabetical order. So we're going to first do the Barolo. In the past, we have done lots of videos on Barolo. I'll have them all linked down below for you to check out after this. If you haven't seen those videos or the numerous articles that we've written on Barolo or the wine region of the Langhe, it might mean that you are not subscribed to the channel here on YouTube, which you should do, or subscribe to the Vero newsletter on verovino.com. By signing up and subscribing to the newsletter, you will become part of the Vero community and get a weekly newsletter letting you know about the latest and greatest content, news, and wines that are coming out of the Vero warehouses. So be sure to click on the link in the description below to sign up for the Vero newsletter and subscribe here on YouTube to never miss any more great wine content from Vero. Back to the Barolo. So Barolo can only be made in 13 villages in the Langhe, a wine region in the northwestern Italian province of Piedmont, and anecdotally, my home. This means grapes and the winemaking facility where they are processed must be within the confines of one of those villages, with a few select grandfathered cases that we won't get into here. But the name Barolo will actually come from the most important of these villages, Barolo. It is a wine made with 100% Nebbiolo grapes. Then it will be aged for a minimum of 3 years before it can be released. Of those 3 years, at least 18 months must be spent in oak barrels, although a lot of producers will do more. That's just the minimum. Typical flavors and aromas that we want to look for in this bottle are going to be of sour cherries and violets. As the wine ages, we will get more tertiary flavors, and aromas of toasty notes from the barrel can come out too. We will always feel that typical Nebbiolo tannin, but it should be a little bit softened thanks to the aging. Now, on to the Brunello. Brunello comes from a little bit more south in Italy, in the heart of Tuscany, just outside of the town of Siena, where there lies the town of Montalcino. Like with the Barolo villages, Brunello di Montalcino can only be made if the grapes and winemaking facility are located within those geographical confines around the village of Montalcino. In this wine, we are looking at the grape Sangiovese. 100% of it. In fact, once upon a time, the name Brunello actually came from the specific type of Sangiovese that was used and grown in the area, which locally was referred to as a Brunello. In a Brunello, the aging is required to be for a minimum of 5 years, with at least 2 of those years being spent in wood barrels. Our typical flavors and aromas are going to be of ripe red fruits like cherries, plums, and berries. There's going to be signs of the extended aging with tertiary flavors and aromas of leather, tobacco, and a general earthiness like forest floor should be coming out too. Now, a little bit about the specific wines I have here today, because that's important too. A a Barolo and a Brunello, obviously, but both are from small producers that focus on well-made traditional wines that represent their local terroir and homes. For the Barolo, Aldo Clerico is from Monforte d'Alba, and he specializes in crafting red wines from the grapes most traditional and local to the Langhe. That would be Dolcetto, Barbera, and the beloved Nebbiolo. He actually makes several Barolos, and in previous videos we have talked about the differences between all three Barolos. But today we have his, let's call it classic Barolo. From a single cru, there are different vineyards within that single cru, and Aldo will masterfully blend those different vineyards to craft a balanced and traditional version of Barolo for this bottle. For our Brunello, Alberto Pagliatini is the head of Canalino, a small winery located just steps outside of the Montalcino gate. Alberto crafts his wine using only Sangiovese grapes, turning them into an array of amazing wines from his family's generational home that is immersed in the hillside vineyards of Tuscany. He only makes his Brunello when it is the right year, and he has shown in the past that if the year isn't right and he doesn't like the grapes and they don't meet his standard, he will not make a Brunello. These wines, crafted by small producers like Aldo Clerico and Canalino, will be an amazing way to compare and contrast a Barolo and a Brunello. Because these wines are made with such care and passion, they are more apt to show their uniqueness and their terroir, and they will show the best representations of what the grape, but also the aging and the land can offer for each of these wines. So, it's time to taste. Let's open up these bottles, pour a glass of Barolo and a glass of Brunello. Here we go! All right, so we have wine in our glasses. Let us taste the difference. We're gonna start off here with the Barolo. A nice intense nose, we get those nice cherry notes. I'm getting a little bit of also a little bit of the aging's coming through, and a touch of like the truffle kind of mushroomy flavor that Barolo can get. Tannic, it is, but we have the tannins are really nicely balanced with the acidity, and they are softened. So they come and they're there, but they leave pretty quickly. A wonderful fruity mouth. I really, really enjoy that. That's pleasant to drink. Fabulous. Let's try the Brunello. So first off, I just want to note, I do note a difference in color. The Brunello is a little bit darker, slightly darker colored than the Nebbiolo. Here as well, I get jammy notes. I get like stewed cherries, actually. And I definitely can sense that forest floor coming through, that earthy characteristic that Sangiovese can get. So the tannins here, again, we're really feeling them, but they're super soft. These tannins almost feel like a soft carpet, kind of. They're there and they just kind of settle in and then slowly dissipate. Lovely, those jammy flavors really carry over. It's got this really, it tastes like a cherry Jolly Rancher. There's this almost sweet tendency towards the jammy fruit. Really a nice sugary jammy fruit flavor to it. Like I said, I get Jolly Rancher coming through. Fabulous. All right, let's kind of now compare and contrast that we've got our palates wetted. Definitely you can sense the difference in just the fruit. The Sangiovese comes across as a lot more jammy, where the Barolo fruit is a little bit more crisp to it. In the Barolo, I get more of a sense of the tertiary, leaning more towards that kind of truffle flavor rather than forest floor. There's even here a kind of a note that you would get from like the smell of a winery or a little bit of tar, which is another classic Nebbiolo flavor. Where here the flavors definitely go more towards that forest floor, those leaves, that kind of a sentiment of earthiness rather than the winery flavors. On the palate, The tannins are very similar. They're both fairly tannic grapes. The Nebbiolo is a little bit more pronounced, which I think I would expect knowing the grape. Overall, on the palate, we also feel the softness does come through a little bit more on the Brunello, but of course that is natural. It is aged a little bit more than the Barolo, so it's natural to think that it's going to have a little bit more of a softness to it. Overall, they're very distinct in terms of the two wines. I think if I were to close my eyes and mix up the glasses, I would easily be able to tell which is the Brunello and the Sangiovese and which is the Barolo and the Nebbiolo. Very different wines, very interesting to do this compare and contrast tasting. So now, like all wines, well, all well-made wines, it's the variations that are beautiful. Different Barolos and different Brunellos will represent differently, unique to each one. So the homework that I'm going to leave you with is to do your own tastings. Get some different Barolos, get some Brunello, and find the uniqueness that comes out in each one. Luckily, we here at Vero can help you out with that. If you head over to the Vero shop at verovino.com, you will find both of these wines as well as wines from the producers as well, and so many other small production wines that are just fabulous. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like below and be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and to the Vero newsletter on verovino.com to stay up to date with more content and wines. I will see you with the next video, which might be this one here. I am going to have fun drinking this Barolo and Brunello. Bye!